Good evening, everybody. How is everyone doing? Thank you so much for once again joining me on my Facebook Live, where I end up blabbering on for hours upon end about photography and blah, blah, blah. I'm kidding. ESCOM doesn't allow us to blabber on for hours because, well, my power goes out at 8 o'clock again, hence my moving it to 6:30. In any case, welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining. Please let me know where you guys are from, where you're watching. I see we already have one comment, which is from Johan, who I actually get to meet at the end of the month, which I'm very, very excited with. Johan is going to be joining me on my Rhino experience. So thank you so much for signing in from Belgium, Johan. So welcome to my Facebook Live. If this is your first time joining, my name is Megan McCabe, and I'm a full-time photographer and, well, sometimes videographer in Johannesburg, South Africa. Like I said, please let me know where you guys are watching. Please interact. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, post away. The more you comment and the more that you interact with me, the easier it is for me to do this. And also it makes it makes me feel better about myself by doing these lives. So please, please, please interact. So aviation photography caught my attention around the same time as motorsport because it was adrenaline packed. It was about the noise. It was about the excitement. And actually, we had been going to air shows from quite a while. When I was a kid, I remember my parents taking me to the air show that was AAD at Waterkloof. And I remember being excited. It was so cool to watch these planes. So when I got my camera and when I was doing my photography thing, then it became a thing of, oh, okay, wait, now this is a new thing that I get to photograph. I remember that my first air show, the sidekick went with me too. She was scared of the Griffin, which I get to now tell everybody about, which was very, very funny. I ran outside and was like, oh my word, what was that noise? And she's busy hiding out under one of the hangars. It was very amusing. But everything was very, very exciting. And the thought of camera settings was gone. It evaporated. So I got home and I had like 6 million photos that I was like, yeah, look at these photos. They're amazing. Yeah, every single one of them was a static image of a plane in the sky. No prop blur, no movement whatsoever. I still remember I posted them on Facebook and I was like, oh man, look at these. They're so cool. They're amazing. They're sharp. And I remember like the comments just started coming in of, where's the movement? Where's the movement? Where's the movement? I still felt very proud of them when I posted them, and I learned very quickly what makes a good aviation photo. And I hope mine are good, I think. I don't know. So what I'm basically going to do tonight is talk about some of the tricks and tips that I found shooting aviation. If they work for you, that's fantastic. If they don't, or if you can adapt them to how you shoot, that's even more awesome. I always say that in my courses because we all have different ways of doing photography or shooting. We all have our own kind of way of doing it. Basically, aviation photography is a balance between clarity and movement. It's very similar to motorsport in the sense that you want to portray that movement, but it's a little more tricky because a lot of the times their movement is a lot less predictable. It's also very tricky because different planes have different speeds, their props move at a different pace. So you'll constantly be changing your shutter speed through an air show. Don't just think that you're going to get to the air show, you're going to set one shutter speed, and that's it. Nope. You're pretty much going to be changing your shutter speed through the entire show, depending, again, on what you're shooting, depending on what type of images you want to get. So again, guys, if you've just joined, welcome. Please, please, please interact. Please comment. Let me know your questions. If you've got any questions about gear, about pretty much anything aviation related. Let's keep it aviation related tonight. Please just post and I will get to them. So air shows can be very tricky. Firstly, you're working with harsh light. I'm just going to bring that in there and do that because I'm being dysfunctional. Wait, that's the one I wanted. So generally you're working with harsh light. Most of the time air shows, well, most of the time, all of the time air shows start at maybe 7 o'clock in the morning and they go through to maybe, if you're lucky, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Generally like afternoon light, the best. But most of the time we don't get that. Most of the time we don't get the good light to photograph airplanes. So harsh lighting conditions, limited choices to where you can stand. You can apply to be a photographer or to be a media person at these events. I know that the SWAT Corp Air Force Base has a club that you can join, And I know that they are absolutely phenomenal bunch of photographers because I've worked with them many times. And being media will give you more options as to where you can go. But if you're just going as a normal person for the day, it can be really tricky trying to find your place. The gates generally open, I think if I'm not mistaken, the gates at Swartkorp Air Force Base open at 7 this Saturday. I haven't paid much attention because unfortunately I will not be there. And generally you need to be at the gate at 7 o'clock to get a spot. Center line to get a spot by the fence. So early morning, yay. I'll actually be up at 7 o'clock, well, earlier than 7 o'clock because I will be photographing a spay day at the vet that I used to work for. That's why I'm missing an air show. Then the other thing that comes or is rather tricky when it comes to photographing air shows is the fact that there's lots of people. There's lots of photographers. And like I said, unless you get there at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, getting a place up front can be really tricky, which means that you've got a lot of like silhouettes of heads in your images if they're flying by or if they are landing or taking off. It happens a lot and it can be very frustrating. It can be a very annoying situation. But by the same token, you can use it to your discretion. You can use it to create different images, to showcase other people enjoying the air show. I'll never forget, there was I'm trying to think when it was. A couple of years ago, I had media access for AAD. And we were there on one of the corporate days. And they were doing their testing or their pre-flight checks or whatever beforehand, and we were all standing on the flight line, and there was a whole bunch of army soldiers standing there, and the one guy literally had a tablet, and he literally held the tablet up and was taking photos with the tablet. So I was standing behind him, of which generally as photographers we get kind of very upset when people like plonk something right in front of us and are like, hey, here's a tablet with a tablet version or view of what's happening in front of you. But I took a photo because I thought that it was actually so cool that they're in the military, but they can still be passionate about the military. So I took a photo of this guy taking a photo of the airplanes with his massive tablet, and it actually won a competition. So sometimes including the elements that might frustrate you can create an image. Remember, it's all about telling a story. Photography is all about telling a story. So comments. Please comment, people. I see there's 12 people and I've only got 2 comments. What is going on? Hola, mi amigo. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien. Hola. My Spanish is getting there. In any case, so try and incorporate and try and include people in your images. It can create a story. Then you need to consider camera settings. So like I said, it changes, your shutter speed will change depending on the type of plane, depending on whether it's a helicopter, but you need to create sharpness. Sharpness is the key when shooting with a lower shutter speed, but you also need to create sufficient prop blur. Now, to anybody who doesn't know what prop blur is, this is what prop blur is. And aviation photographers are utterly obsessed with getting a full circle. Utterly obsessed. Like, you can talk to any of the gents who have been doing this for many years, and that is kind of the goal when it comes to aviation photography, which is very tricky because they're moving, you have a very low shutter speed, and you're now expected to kind of, it's tricky. This was taken at 1/30th of a second, so you can see the lower your shutter speed, the more movement you're going to see in the prop. Or you can then have a higher shutter speed when you are shooting jets. So I do know that the Gripen and the Hawks, I think, I could be wrong, do know for a fact that the Gripen's going to be flying on Saturday. And I know that there will be another fighter jet. I'm just can't remember whether it was a Hawk or whether it was, no, not a cheetah. It's a Hawk. So I know that the Gripens and the Hawks will be flying on Saturday. And with them, you can then increase your shutter speed because there aren't any parts on them that actually show movement. So, sorry, I'm just getting myself sorted here. Firstly, being prepared for the conditions is going to help you create your best images. So a good pair of walking shoes, a cap, lots of sunscreen, and a heck of a lot of water or beer. No, not beer. We don't want interesting photos. A heck of a lot of water are going to make you a lot more comfortable, which means that your photos are going to be a lot more or a lot better. Because you'll basically be taking care of yourself. You won't be sitting with a headache. You won't be sitting with massive sunburn. I have done both. I have done both where I get too excited to eat, too excited to, well, too stupid rather, to put sunblock on. And then it ruins the entire day. It ruins the entire experience because you get home, you're not really bothered about your photos. You're not really excited about them because you're honestly in too much pain. So being prepared will make your photos better. You need to make sure that you're carrying around a light camera bag, or light as possible camera bag. Getting stuck with a heavy camera bag and carting it around is very, very much not fun. Now, on the note of camera bags, remember last time, if you signed in on my last live, I spoke a heck of a lot about insurance. Now, one of the key factors about insurance is the fact that if you leave your bag, which I know for a fact I've done many times because, as I said, I get very excited about stuff. If you leave your camera bag lying around, or if you leave a camera on the chair or whatever, and it gets stolen, your insurance is probably not going to cover you because it needs to kind of be pried out of your hands versus just negligently lying around. So please, please, please be aware of this. Unfortunately, at air shows, there is a criminal element. Definitely a criminal element. And they're looking for people because people are distracted by the pretty planes. So please be aware of these things. So now let's talk about lens choice. So this is going to be a bit tricky because unless you've scouted Swartkops Air Show or Swartkops Air Force Base, you're not sure how close you're going to get to the action. You also don't want to take a lot of stuff and then leave it in the car. That is another element in terms of safety that might not be a good idea because as far as I remember, you do park outside the Air Force Base, not inside the Air Force Base. So just remember that when you are packing. It also depends on how close you can get to them, how close when they are static, how close you can get to them when they're taking off or when they're in the air. So I know Swartkops has a fair amount of static airplanes that are in hangars and that are also outside that can be really, really great for photo opportunities. So there you're going to need a wider lens. And then for a lot of the flying, you're going to need a longer lens. Legally, as far as I can remember, planes are not allowed to fly over the audience at all. So you do have to have a fairly long lens to be able to shoot them. But this is the key element. Do not get stuck using only one lens when you're shooting. So I have a 4150 and I have a 1240. Both of those lenses are generally on both of my cameras, and I'm shooting with both to get different perspectives on or different images on both cameras. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've got 6 million photos of very, very wide shots where the plane is like that tiny, and you can't even see if the plane's in focus, so it didn't work. But you know what? I still tried, and I still was trying not to get stuck on one specific lens, which is really, really easy thing to do, especially if you're shooting with a really long telephoto lens. Then you're getting that clarity, you're getting that sharpness. It looks really, really epic. But then when you get home, you can have all of the same images. So try not to get stuck using one lens because you'll lose out on things. Like I showed you that picture of the audience. You'll lose out on incorporating elements that create a story around the image. So comments. Timothy says definitely horse. Thank you for confirming that for me. I don't know why. I got a little bit confused. And then Pierre says good evening. And Frank, good evening. I'm not entirely sure what your message means. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, please keep the comments coming in. Please keep interacting, asking questions. I really, really want to hear about your experiences as well. So tell me about your first air show. Let me know what your first air show was like. Mine was epic until my battery died. And like I said, I got 6 million photos of static. So I think we got to about lunchtime and I was shooting. I was like in my element. And the Griffin was about to come out for the first time. And as it came right in front of me, which I was like standing there going, oh my gosh, what is this thing? My battery died. So I did what any reasonable photographer would do. I took it out of the camera, I shook it, I put it back in the camera, I waited for the Griffin to take off, and photographed one really, really epic clear shot of the Griffin hanging upside down. So shaking your battery does help, just by the way. So let me know what your first airshow experience was like. Let me know how you found photographing your first airshow, because it can be really daunting and it can be really tricky, especially if you're like me and go into it like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Meanwhile, well, most of the time I don't know what I'm doing. All right. So Frank says hello. Jared says lens choice is also dictated by sensor size. This is very, very true. And Timothy says I have load shedding. Yeah. no. Mine's hitting at 8 o'clock. So I've been trying to prep and trying to get everything sorted. Today was also load shedding during the day, and it's really, really frustrating. But in any case, this is supposed to take your mind off of load shedding, because it's not like we can actually do anything about it. So do not get stuck shooting on one specific lens. If you do, you might miss cool things like bright screen, like a really, really cool sunset, or you might miss if there's any dramatic clouds, or if there's a monument or structure at the venue that actually tells people where you are without going, okay, I am at Swartkorps Air Force Base. They'll be able to see it in the image. So Swartkorps Air Force Base has on the, how to describe this without sounding like a chop. If you look straight at the basically on Saturday, if you go into the Air Force Base and you look at the flight line, on your left-hand side, there is a big hill. On that hill, there is a monument. I cannot remember what the monument is for. If you know, tell me. But that can actually add a really, really cool detail to when the planes are kind of coming around or turning around, or it's just kind of a cool element that showcases where you are. Another element is hangars. So this was taken at Waterkloof Air Force Base, and flight line is always in front of all of the hangars. So incorporating elements that tell a story without your viewer then needing to ask, oh, where was this, is a kind of a really, really cool way to photograph. It's all about telling a story. Or, like I said, people enjoying the show, people watching the show. Again, this was at AAD, Waterkloof Air Force Base. You had the crowd line, and then this Royfolk was getting ready to take off. So creating that story that you've got people interacting, you've got people watching, but you kind of got the ominous Royfolk sitting behind them. It's just kind of, again, creating a story. So please, if I am going too fast, tell me to slow down. If you guys have any questions, tell me. If you guys have any comments, tell me. Please just interact, because like doing this and not having interaction is sometimes very, very tricky. So it's all about making your images interesting, making sure that when you post something on Facebook, there's going to be a lot of photographers at the air show this weekend. Make sure that you stand out, that you literally post something that it's not the same as every other photographer. Generally, what I would do at air shows is, if I had the opportunity, there'd be like a row of photographers. That's what you'll always find at air shows as well. And then I'll be like, I'm going to go and stand, if possible. Again, remember, access is always tricky. I'm going to go stand on the opposite and like get a silhouette or get something completely different. Try and get images that are different, that push your creativity, push your camera as well, and just make you learn something in the process. Okay, so comments. Matthew says, first time shooting at an air show, took far too many photos. That is normal. Far too many photos, normal, completely normal. And it doesn't go away. So I was at AAD last year, and I still haven't even looked at most of my photos, and I think I was sitting on 4,400 photos. Yeah. And that's without like constant shooting. So just be aware of that. Take lots and lots and lots of memory cards. Pierre says he hasn't had a chance to go to an air show. Go to an air show, it's addictive. Photographing skydivers. That's very, very cool. And going to the airport, I actually desperately want to go and do plane spotting. I know OR Tambo has quite a few spots where you can actually photograph planes really, really nicely. And I still want that key shot of a plane coming in and landing and smoke. You understand what I mean. Pierre says, love the composition, I'm guessing, of the plane. Thank you so much. Nigel, SA Air Force Memorial is in Swartkorps. Thank you so much for confirming that. So it's just this really, really cool statue that's on top of the hill that can kind of add an element to your images, and just it kind of, people know that statue, so they go, okay, cool, this is where it was taken. Please keep the comments coming in. Please keep let me know what your first air show was like. Johan, first air show was tricky to do, especially finding the aircraft with the telephoto. That's one of the biggest things that I found with Olympus as a 300, which is a 600 mil. You lose them so quickly. It's fantastic, and like I said, you're getting these really sharp, close shots, but you lose them. Like, you literally stand there and you're like, okay, you look like a bit of a chap. You're literally like facing your camera at the sky, and you're like, okay, where is this thing that is flying? It's very, very frustrating having a massive telephoto lens. I had the luck there was enough space for the crowd visiting the show, so I had enough space to look for the shots I wanted. That is key, and I'm guessing SWAT Corps is going to be quite busy on Saturday based on the fact that this is the first time that they've had this specific air show since lockdown. So I do think it's going to be really, really busy. I do think there's going to be lots and lots of people and lots and lots of photographers. So just keep that in mind. Don't get frustrated, but use what elements can frustrate you or do frustrate you to create cool or interesting images. Pierre, what's your go-to settings you usually set? Always make sure I have mine on AI focus, then play around with my sharpness. So we are going to come to settings just now. I'm going to go through basically all of my settings that I use. Like I said earlier, if they work for you, that's fantastic. If they don't, that's also okay. We all have our unique way of shooting. So if you can use some of the elements that I teach, that's really, really awesome. So where are we? Yeah. So like I said, it differs between aircrafts. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I am in my notes. So like I said, so if there are elements that are moving, you will want to show that they are moving. So if they are taking off or landing, you want to show that there's movement. If they have props, you want to show that there's movement. But then, or you want to show their background. Sorry, I'm just figuring out where my next photo is. Oh my goodness, I've lost myself in my notes. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. I really have just confused my living daylights out of me, which happens very, very easily, extremely easily. Okay, so I spoke about the fact that make your images interesting, even if that includes having people watching the show, having people interacting with each other, having photographers take photos of the shots. I did that a couple of years ago where I was literally very amused at the fact that stop and sometimes watch the photographers next to you. It's very amusing because it's literally like this row of photographers and they're all like me, 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 me. It can be very, very entertaining. Like I said, it's going to be different per aircraft. So whether they're landing, whether they're taking off, if they're moving, if you have movement of the props, or if you have movement in the background. So panning. If you have done my motorsport workshop, or if you've heard me speak about motorsport, panning, where you are following the subject, you are keeping the subject in your focus, but your shutter speed is low enough that you're creating that sense of movement because you're moving with the subject. It is tricky. It is going to take you a fair amount of time to actually get. It took me a heck of a long time to actually get, and I still get it wrong. This photo is not 100% sharp, and you know what? I don't really care. That also is how you interpret a photo. It's how you want to perceive that photo. If you're happy with that specific level of sharpness, then that's perfect. If you want to improve, of which we all want to improve constantly, then that's fine as well. So if it has blades that you can see movement, you need to portray movement in those. But again, it's going to depend on what speed those blades are rotating. If the aircraft doesn't have blades, then you can shoot at a higher, stupid thing, it's doing its own thing, then you can shoot at a higher shutter speed. So I think if I'm not mistaken, this shot was taken at 2,000ths of a second, and the Gripen is lots and lots of fun because you can get the back burner. Correct me if that's the wrong term. You can get the back burner as he goes up. Obviously, he also, or I'm really, really hoping that he will flare as well. That would be really, really cool to shoot. It can be very tricky to shoot because generally they try and save it for late afternoon so that the flares are seen. And it's, yeah, it can be very, very pretty. Very, very pretty. But then with these guys, again, if they're coming into land or if they are taking off, you would want to show movement. You don't want to get a static plane on the runway because logic, it's taking off. It's showing movement. You need to portray that movement. So coming back to comments, thank you guys so much for the interaction on the comments. Very, very happy to see that. Jared, yes, I'm definitely going to join you at OR Tambo at some point. And I know that sorry, my brain is very slow tonight. Nigel has also been inviting me to join at OR Tambo for quite some time. Let's see. Timothy says, I use small aviation events like the SAF training days to practice for big events. Also having excellent mentors like Jared and Moody made my first air show as a photographer a lot easier. Firstly, having or using the SAF training days is fantastic. There's a lot less pressure. There's a lot less elements going on. So you can really, really focus on the fact that there's one helicopter taking off. It's not like the air shows, which generally there's a fair amount of activity in the sky. So the SAF training days are absolutely phenomenal. I do actually run workshops on those days as well because of that aspect. Because air shows can actually be very daunting and very tiring because your brain's focusing on everything. And if you're like me, I get ADD a heck of a lot. So I'm like, oh, plane, oh, plane, oh, plane, oh, pretty plane, oh, that, I like that. So having the smaller events to train on actually makes it a heck of a lot better. And then, yes, having Jared and Moody, absolutely, absolutely. Having somebody that can guide you and help you to kind of figure it out, it helps a heck of a lot. Fortunately, I had a fair amount of photographers who would give me a lot of grief and be like, why is there no movement? But by the same token, I do appreciate how much they guided and helped me and also found the right spots to shoot. And there was quite a few photographers that when I had no idea what I was doing, they'd literally just hijack me. They'd literally just drag me somewhere and I'd be like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, but they'd be like, just carry on shooting. So having the right people and having somebody by your side kind of guiding you helps a heck of a lot. Frank says, I find shooting with both eyes helps keep one eye for tracking and the other height. Yes, if that is something that you can do, it's something that I learned with motorsport as well. You keep track of what's going on in front of you, but your other eye is always scanning. You're always kind of watching around you, trying to keep track of planes, of sort of shots that are happening in front of you. It does help a heck of a lot. So, like I said, higher shutter speed, you can shoot with planes that have elements that don't specifically show movement unless they're on the ground, unless they have or they are moving where you can see elements that have movement. Key is to show, if they have blades, to show the movement, basically. Then for air shows, and again, like I said before, this is my way of shooting. If it doesn't sound normal for you, that's perfectly fine. This is just how I have shot air shows in the past. Firstly, the 3 modes that I generally stick to are either aperture priority, because you use this when there's no movement needed. So I will use this a fair amount when I'm walking around shooting static. So shooting the static planes or shooting crowd shots or where there's no elements where I want to portray movement. Now, I'm a lazy photographer, so I do tend to stick to aperture priority and shutter priority. It just, they work for me. And then they also, with exposure compensation, I find that they create, or they help me create the images that I really want to portray. Then shutter priority is when you are wanting to show movement. So when the helicopter is getting ready to take off and his blades are rotating, or when the jet is getting ready and it's taking off, or you want to pan it, or when the prop planes are in the sky and you want to get that movement in the props. So I generally use shutter priority because it just means that I don't need to think about my f-stop. My f-stop's generally quite high as well because, like I said, most of the time our lighting conditions really don't help for anything. And then I do use manual when I'm wanting to be more creative. So when I'm wanting to create silhouette shots. So again, this was at AAD, and if you've been to AAD can be really, really tricky to shoot sometimes, well, most of the time in the afternoon, because the sun sets behind the hangars. It sits in front of you. So you're getting a lot of silhouette shots. You're getting a lot of tricky lighting shots. So you can use then manual, or you can use exposure compensation. And that's where I generally shoot shutter priority. I would have shot shutter priority on this because you can still see the movement in the blades, and then use my exposure compensation to make it darker, to tell the camera, okay, I want it darker for this specific image. So I'm just going to head back to the comments because everyone's commenting so wonderfully. Pierce says PE can really you can get close to the runway, which is quite nice, but I have to go with company, can't go along. But other than that, yes. So that's another element that gets a little bit tricky if you're going to shoot aircraft. And I know Artambo, they suggested going in groups as well at one point, although now it seems to have quietened down. But safety is always a tricky thing if you're going plane spotting. It's very, very frustrating. Jared says panning's good fun. Yes, Jared, it's so nice to see you actually out and shooting again. Frank, I see you and Jared are reconnecting. Dana, afterburner, yep, that's the word I was looking for. And the sound, that sound of the Griffin is just, it's addictive. It really, really is addictive. Hello, Kay. Playing with panning. That is the key. That is honestly the key to actually getting really, really great shots. It's literally playing with your shutter speed, seeing how steady you can hold a camera, trying. That's basically the key of panning. What's your take on getting sun flares in the shots, good or bad? Personally, I like it. Nigel, I am the same with you. I really, really like getting sun flares in my shots. It's just sometimes tricky to try and get them in the right place. So I have shot quite a few times where I want to get the sun flare at the back of the plane, or not in a part where it distorts. So say if I want to get a shot like this, if there was a sun flare sort of where the pilots are sitting, for me, it would take away a bit from the image because I want to see the clarity. I want to see the silhouette of the pirates. The pirates. Oh my goodness. I promise I have not been drinking rum. The pilots. I want to see the clarity of the pilots. So I do like sun flares. Again, creative. Monet, do you have a personal favorite? Sun reflecting on the plane as it flies past so you can see all the detail, or sun behind the plane and creating a silhouette? Honestly, a bit of both. And that's the fun part about air shows, because generally it's the entire day. You have the option to do both. Trying to think. I probably would go more with silhouette because there aren't that many shots that I've seen that photographers take of the silhouette. So I'd probably go with more the silhouette thought. Aperture priority. Look, I'll be honest, my camera is on aperture priority a heck of a lot. That's why a fair amount of my photos are always at 2.8, because I forget it. Like I said, I'm a lazy photographer. When you are going over to the dark side of videography. Oh, geez, Reno, no. That is a completely different kettle of fish. I have tried it. I have played around with trying to video planes. It's like a 2-year-old had a camera. It's literally like, oh, look, there's a plane. Oh, look, there's another plane for like 2 seconds. No, videography and air shows are a little bit more tricky. And then, yes, I can't believe I said pirates. My mother's going to be hosing herself in the next room. Okay, so thank you guys for the comments. Thank you guys for the interaction. This is amazing. I haven't had this interaction ever on a live, so thank you so much. Okay, so now, wait. So on the panning side of things, each person has their minimum shutter speed that they can go. This will depend on who you are in terms of your stability, but it will also depend on whether you've eaten. Again, coming back to taking care of yourself for the day, whether you're dehydrated, whether you've got a headache, whether you're comfortable. All of these elements will help or hamper your panning skills. So there was a video a while back on TikTok, which was like, oh, can I be a doctor? And it was like you had to hold your hand up and the scanner kind of went over and it showed you any movement. So it's the same principle. Each person has a different level that they can go down to panning. My lowest with motorsport so far has been 1/3, 1/4. But again, it's not 100% sharp. So I will constantly be practicing that. What I generally suggest with a lot of my workshops is start at a higher shutter speed, but still low enough that you're getting movement. Remember, movement is key. So start at 1/200th of a second. Again, you'll show a different level of movement in helicopters, in planes, in different types of planes, but it's a starting point. So start at 1/200th of a second, and then you can start dropping down as you feel like you are getting the shots, or if you feel like you need more movement. But it comes with a lot of practice. Panning is practice, practice, practice. At a lot of my motorsport workshops, I have a lot of photographers come in and go, oh, I really want to get the shot. And they think that they're going to get it immediately. And then they're very frustrated at the fact that they're not getting the shot. And they're like, what's wrong with my camera? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? It literally just takes having the right settings for your camera, finding what works for you, and then just a heck of a lot of practice. So you will see a lot of tripods and monopods at the air show. It's a personal preference. For me, I'm clumsy, and I probably would forget having a monopod on and then like whack somebody out with that. If you don't have the right equipment, so if you don't have the right specific head on your monopod, you are going to battle. But again, it's personal preference. So now let's look at some of the actual camera settings. So you're going to want your ISO as low as possible, depending on what the light is. I'm just going to go to the screen for a bit. Depending on what the light is doing around you. So some people have found that going or bracketing your ISO, so you can literally go, okay, I want my ISO to go to auto, but then it's bracketed. So then it only sits between ISO 100 and ISO 1000. You can try that. I will be honest with my camera gear. I don't like it. It takes away my element of control. and I like having a fair amount of control of my camera. So you want to keep your ISO as low as possible, but you are going to be changing it through the day. You will have a different ISO from when the air show starts, or from when you arrive there on Saturday morning to the late last plane. And again, I'm not entirely sure what time the air show finishes, but generally it's just after sunset. So I'm hoping. Then white balance. Now, white balance, if you're shooting in RAW, is not going to be a massive change. But when you're shooting air shows, you sometimes, well, a fair amount of the time, we want to batch process our images. So if you have one specific white balance on all of your images, it just means that when you're batch processing your images, you're not going to have to change that constantly per image. You will have one white balance through your images, and that will help. My mom says she's laughing at me calling pirates. Yeah, and I thought she would be. I'm not going to live that one down. Jad says, not lazy in using aperture or shutter priority. It makes life easier. It very much does, but by the same token, it makes us reliant on our camera gear. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Being reliant on your camera gear and being reliant on the technology that your camera gear has can be good, but by the same token, I don't know. I don't know about that. Pierre, tripod? Yeah, no, neither do I. Monet, right. Back burner and front burner are just so domestic. Ah, ha, ha, very funny. So I will definitely have to work on the ISO when I get a chance to do an air show. ISO as low as possible. So generally my ISO is sitting on 64. Lowest ISO, which means that your shutter speed can drop really low. Your f-stop's going to pretty much go high in any case because, like I said, lighting conditions are pretty horrible. Light metering mode, I keep mine on matrix or evaluative. This basically means that it's looking at the entire image and exposing for the entire image. It's not just looking at the plane, and if the plane is black, it's going to pick it up differently. If the plane is white, it's going to pick it up differently. So keep that in mind. So I just keep it on matrix. Then we come to the interesting parts. Focusing mode. So I use continuous autofocus, unless you want to use your tracking feature on your camera. So a lot of the new cameras do have incredible tracking features. I will be honest that I don't use them because I feel that they take away from my composition skills. I feel like when the tracker, when the focusing spot is moving around rapidly, it's kind of messing with my head in terms of, okay, I want it there because the plane is going to fly from this way, so I want more space in front of the plane. It messes with my capability to compose the image. But again, this is completely up to you. It's about finding out what works for you. I then use single point. So single point continuous autofocus. That's the full sentence. Because this then allows me to change as the plane is changed direction or as the plane is coming past. It allows me to change my focus point to either the left of the screen, right of the screen, or the left of the screen. And remember, rule of thirds is very key when it comes to shooting aircraft. You want to show that the aircraft is moving into an open space, not that it's going to fly into the wall, basically. So that helps me to then move my focus point, that it can constantly go, okay, this is the shot that I want. I'm composing the shot before I even take it. And that's another skill that shooting a fair amount more will help you develop, is looking at an image, looking at the lighting, looking at what you want to shoot, and then going, okay, this is how I want to set the shot up. So I'm just coming back to the comments. Yes, so Pierre, you would bump your ISO up for birds because you want a faster shutter speed. But remember, now you want a slower shutter speed. So you want as little light coming into your camera as possible so that you can drop your shutter speed. Yes, your gear is there to help you. Absolutely, I agree with you completely. It very much is. I never want to kind of produce or help everybody become lazy photographers, even though I just said I was. Yes, trying to support yourself can help. I've seen a lot of photographers, they kind of have a stance. They do something like that. Like, I don't know how they do it. I've never done it before. Fortunately, and this is a very marked opportunity. My camera's in-body stabilizers, just absolutely incredible. So I don't need to stabilize myself. That was a very marked moment. But yes, supporting yourself or making sure you're stable, having a stable stance. And this is, again, comfortable shoes, making sure that you are good will help you a heck of a lot to drop your shutter speed. Peter says, shooting manual, just find it easier. That is absolutely perfect. Again, it's about finding what's easier for you, what makes you create your best images. Each of us is completely different, so we're going to have different images. Okay, now this is something that is very, 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 very important, and something I'm going to reiterate a heck of a lot. Right, shooting mode. You will find at an air show. Now listen when there's an air show. Listen to the other photographers. They pick up the camera, they see the planes in front of them, and they go, no matter what the planes are doing. They take 6 million photos of the planes in front of them, no matter what's going on. Now, yes, our cameras have that feature, which is fantastic. But relying on it doesn't make you a better photographer. Relying on it gets you 6 million photos after an air show. Great, that's fantastic. But it doesn't make you watch. It doesn't make you actually stop and watch what the planes are doing. So when you get to an air show, if you have a chance, just stand and watch. Watch what the lighting's doing. Watch when the planes are going to make a break, when they're going to cross over in front of each other. Just watch. There's telltale signs. Once you've been doing air shows for a fair amount of time, the guys don't change their routines very often. There's telltale signs that you will get to go, okay, they're going to do a break. They're going to cross in front of each other. So be prepared for those moments versus just shooting. Be prepared to watch, to study your subject. Basically, it comes back to any type of photography. It comes back to wildlife photography, where you need to learn, you need to know a lot about an animal's specific habitat, where they live, what they're going to do to be able to get the best images. And it does come down to that when it comes to machinery as well. You need to be watching and seeing versus just taking photos. Sometimes we spend way too much time just looking through the viewfinder versus actually being there and enjoying the show and seeing what is happening in front of us. So please don't be one of those photographers and go grrr the entire time. Just don't do it. Rather, take your time, be aware of what's happening, see the planes, see the movement, and create really, really great images. So, comments again. Decisive shots, yes. Any tips on what a sweet spot lens might be? When I used to shoot with Nikon, it was a 70-200, 2.8. Now with Olympus, it's 4150, which is 8300, 2.8. So I have found that those variations, 70-200, a 200 or a 300, is a fairly decent size for SWAT corps. You can take longer. I have shot with a 600, which is fantastic, but like I said, you lose the plane, and B, all your images start looking the same because you're getting nothing that incorporates a story into those. So, Anton, I think you do have a 70-200, if I'm not mistaken. So that lens generally works really, really well. Again, take lenses that you want to try, but be aware of packing too heavy. Fewer carefully planned photos are usually better. 60 of the same photos just means more to sort. That is the exact thing, because if you're shooting like that, you basically are getting 6 million photos that look the exact same. So concentrate on what you're shooting. Watch the planes, watch their movement. It'll make you a better photographer, but it also helps you to concentrate and helps you to develop your skills. Okay, so now we're going to look a bit at the type of images that you can create in an air show, just to try and kind of bring out your creativity. So, firstly, we have static images. So this was taken at SWAT Corps Air Force Base. This guy is probably still going to be there because I don't think he's been moved in a fairly long time. So you can create really, really cool images. This day we had some dramatic lighting, dramatic skies. It is going to be a little bit tricky on Saturday because there are going to be a heck of a lot of people in front of it. But then what I would do rather is I would drop my shutter speed if I can. So I would get the plane in focus and then have the movement of the people in front of the plane, creating kind of a dynamic shot where you're showcasing the movement that's happening at an air show. You're showcasing the people enjoying an air show. Don't forget about the static. The static can actually add really, really a fair amount to an air show. But then also you can take a photo of him while there's something else flying behind it. So don't close your mind off to the fact that static can add to your images. Then you've got prep before taking off. So this was actually at one of the fly days. And it's fascinating to watch these older gents. Their passion for the aircraft, their passion for their alouettes is just absolutely incredible. So getting shots where you're not just forgetting about the people as well that are involved in the aviation, the guys prepping their planes, the guys moving the planes. There's so many elements that we tend to forget when we get into airshow mode because we're concentrating on what's in the sky. Create a story, tell a story of what's happening behind getting the aircraft into place. Then you can get shots where you've got the planes lining up. Generally, the harvards will kind of line up together, or you can just get really creative shots before they take off. This was at Vaartkloof Air Force Base as well. This was, I'm trying to think what lens this was shot with. I'm going to guess this was shot with the 4150, but this was a fairly hectic crop to actually get this shot. But still, I kind of like the idea of the fact that you can see the heat coming out of the Griffin's back, and it just kind of, I don't know, it spoke to me. So getting images of them lining up can also create really cool images. Then you've got them taking off. Remember, this is where you want to incorporate movement. They are moving. No matter what is flying, you want to show that movement. So you would drop your shutter speed and pan with the plane. Again, you've got to figure out what your comfortable shutter speed is. Then you can get them in the sky. So if you're shooting a jet, you can up your shutter speed, shoot at a really high shutter speed because you don't have to concentrate on including elements that move. Or this shot was really tricky. Like I said, generally they keep the flares for like the end of the day where there's very little light. So you're already dropping your shutter speed. You're already or concentrating to try and make sure that you're getting clear images. Then a lot of the times the guys aren't really that predictable when it comes to flares. Last time, the gent who does the announcing is literally, his name's just gone out of my head, but he kept saying, oh, he's going to go up and he's going to flare, and then he went up and he didn't flare, and then he went up and he didn't flare, and then eventually he went up and he flared. So being prepared for that can help you get those images, but still it can be really tricky to get those images. So being prepared and thinking out of the box for images in the air, thinking how you can make that image a lot more different. And then you can get shots when they're landing. So this was also AAD, where they do that whole military demo type thing. You kind of get all of the helicopters coming in to land. You get dust, you get action. So incorporating that into your images will help you create dynamic images and help you create different images. That is my goal with this. If I can help you create different images, that will make me a lot happier. Well, happy in general. Okay, so Pierre says a 300mm is his favorite lens. 250mm. Yes, so between 200 and 300 is fairly decent for our South African air shows. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the international air shows, you have to have a bigger zoom lens because just the size of the air show, but then also their flight line, I think, is a fair amount further away from the crowd. Johan says the 4150 combined with the converter might be good. Yes, absolutely. I actually haven't tried one of those. I need to actually get one of those at some point. Oh, Dion, don't tell him I called him an older gent, please. He will probably freak out at me. But it's fantastic watching the guys that fly on the fly days because they genuinely are passionate about the aircraft. They're passionate about what they do. They do it every single month for us, but yet it's still exciting for them, which is always phenomenal to shoot. And then Brian Eminis, he was the one who kept going, okay, she's going to go up and it's going to flare, and then it didn't flare. And then I think it was the Griffin, actually. It didn't flare that day. Went up and it was going to flare, and then it was going to go up. And so it's sometimes very difficult to predict these things. So my key is aim to shoot something unique at every single air show, which is not the most easy task a fair amount of the time because, like I said, you've got harsh light. I'm hoping for your guys' sake that there's some pretty clouds on Saturday. The clouds have been absolutely phenomenal because I do find that clouds actually add to your images. They kind of break the blue sky. I dislike blue sky. That's why most of my photos are black and white because I'm like, oh, blue sky. Let me convert it to black and white and make it look dramatic. Okay, so any questions so far? I hope this is interesting. I really hope this is interesting. Like I said, this is just how I shoot, how I think through aviation photography. So I'm hoping that it has been interesting for you guys. So I'm guessing no questions. Then when it comes to editing, this is also something that you develop like your photography over time. You develop your skills, but then also your editing style changes constantly. So, first thing, do not over sharpen your image. Do not be like me when I started photography and I was like, oh, Lightroom. Sharpness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. Contrast, 100%. And I was like, look how cool it looks. Yeah. I didn't have to focus on or work too much on focusing on focus. I could just increase the sharpness. Don't do that, because you end up with a photo that looks like this. It looks pixelated. It just doesn't look great. So be aware of over sharpening your images. Do not oversaturate. This image pains me. Like I said, I have a thing about blue sky. I have a thing about blue. I take blue out of most of my images. So when I had to edit this, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing to this? Don't oversaturate images. Oversaturate your images. Another one. Be careful of radial filters. I use radial filters and gradient filters a fair amount in my photos. But you have to be very, very careful with not using them too much, not adding too much, because it can take away from a very cool photo. Make sure your image is straight. When I was editing this, I was like, okay, wait, flip. This, like, it has no line. So I'm like, okay, how do I now incorporate this? And I'm like, okay, make it look like the plane's about to crash. If you have a line in sight, if you have a runway, if you have something that you can compare the straightness of your photo, make sure it is straight. This will add to your storytelling in your image. And then this is basically the final image. This is how I would have edited it. So I've added a slight bit of sharpness. I've taken down my saturation because, like I said, I have a thing about blue. I've added a slight radial filter, or not radial, gradient filters. I didn't have to straighten it because it was fairly straight that day. I must not have been drinking. So this is what the final image for me would look like. Just be aware of those elements. Be aware of, of over editing. And like I said, we develop our style as we go. When I started with Lightroom, oy vey, Facebook is a wonderful reminder about how bad we are as photographers and how bad we were at editing, when it literally shows you all of your photos and it's like clarity, contrast. It's like, no. Smaller movements. I had to learn that in time. Okay, so just some quick tips, some last few quick tips. Planning. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you have a sun hat. Make sure you're covered in sunblock and you have sunblock with you. Putting it on once doesn't help. I would know because I have burnt so many times. It's not even remotely funny. And have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of memory cards, especially if you are planning on panning. That is a mouthful. If you're planning on panning, you're going to go through a fair amount more memory cards than if you're not planning on panning. Scouting. If you have the chance to check out practice days, so I don't think it's open to the public, but they used to have confirmation days basically on the Friday where the guys come in, they do their demo, and the guys then give them the go-ahead. Yes, this is okay, this is not okay. But sometimes being able to go in on practice days or going in with the SAF, the training days, helps you a lot to kind of figure out, okay, this is a good spot, this is where, the flight line is, this is where things happen, versus kind of going in blind. It does help to have a bit of planning, have a bit of prep beforehand, to know what you're going into, to know your location, and to know the plane's routines. And again, that comes with time, a fair amount of time. Know where your show center is. Generally, this is where the grandstand is. This is where the announcers will be. This is where things are going to happen. This is where the planes will come into formation and then break. So having your show center can be a really, really good spot. Again, like I said, I generally go the other direction and I'm like, show center, like that's too normal. Clouds are friends, hope for them. Again, this is just in my world, clouds are friends because it breaks that blue sky. It gives you something to work towards in terms of creating different images. It also gives you something to work towards in terms of showing movement. Panning a plane that is moving across clouds, it shows something that is incorporating movement. Arriving early or staying late sometimes means that you'll get a chance to capture aircraft in better light. So the early part, I remember our first AAD that I went to with my camera. Mom and I got onto the Gautrain train, I think at 5 o'clock in the morning. Got onto the Gautrain train, got through there, got onto a bus, and I think we got home that evening at 6, 7 o'clock that night. So it is a long day. It is a seriously long day. You are going to be buggered the next day. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel sunburnt. Well, hopefully not sunburnt, but you're going to feel tired the next day. So don't do anything. But arriving early and staying late also gives you a chance to scope out and see where your best spots are to stand. It means that you're then getting there and you're not immediately having to go, okay, well, I've got to choose a spot because every other spot has been taken. Notice what is happening around you. Don't chimp too much or be distracted on your phone. The amount of times that there will be something, whether it's a break, whether it's something just cool happening in front of photographers, and they're like, oh yeah, look at my photo, look how cool it is. Yeah, it's in focus, huh? Like, don't do that. Just don't do that. Rather be focused and be in the moment. Be aware of what's happening around you. Be aware of the aircraft, of people, of photo opportunities. That will help you be a better photographer. I might have said this before, but I'm saying it again. Have many memory cards. Make sure your memory cards are clear. Make sure that you have different memory cards. Make sure you have enough space so that when you've done your 6 million panning shots that aren't in focus, because unfortunately that comes with the practice of panning, that you have space to shoot then cool stuff that happens. Then batteries. Like I said, my first air show at Swartkops was like, yay, 1 battery. And it died halfway through the day. If you have spare batteries, make sure they're charged. If you don't have spare batteries, here's a trick, is take your battery charger. Make sure you take your battery charger. I was training a youngster the other day, and her camera battery ran out. So we went to one of the guys selling, I can't even remember what he was selling. We said, can we please plug it in? No problem at all. Plugged it in, hoping that nobody would run away with it, but I very much doubt that would happen. And there we go. So take a charger with if you don't have a spare battery. Having a charger can actually help a heck of a lot. Then exposure compensation is great when you're shooting on shutter priority or aperture priority. Gives you the chance to darken or lighten your images without then kind of needing to think about the nitty-gritty settings, etc., etc. And with the only time that you need to be aware, though, of exposure compensation is when you are shooting aperture priority in a dark situation. And I've done this so many times, it's not even remotely funny. You set your aperture, you go into a situation, okay, cool, I'm going to get amazing, amazing photos. You get home, all the photos are blurry because your shutter speed dropped too low. Your camera doesn't know it's not on a tripod. So it's literally going to drop its shutter speed and go, I need more light. So it's going to go shutter speed low. So that is the only situation that you need to be aware of, and be careful of exposure compensation when shooting in aperture priority. So that is pretty much a basic run through of what my aviation photography workshop is about. I really, really hope you guys have enjoyed it. Like I said, this is just sort of my way of processing aviation, of shooting aviation, of thinking through aviation photography. And basically, I just thought, okay, well, I'm not going to be at the air show on Saturday, but it would be kind of cool to maybe inspire people to take different images, because we all go to these air shows year after year and we still enjoy them and they're fantastic, but we end up walking away with the same images. So all I can say to you is try and create something different, try and create different images, and just always try and shoot something that you are proud of. Even if you post it on social media and somebody criticizes you and goes, oh, my biggest pet peeve is it should be zoomed in but like closer. Why? So please, if you guys have any questions, I'm pretty much going to be logging off quite soon because I have to get ready for load shedding. Yay for me. Oh yeah, I still put these questions here. What have you found helpful in an air show? What have you found either in terms of being prepared for an air show, or in terms of camera gear, or in terms of just dealing with the air show? What has helped you get the best images out of an air show? Let me know. This is not up to you. You're supposed to be doing the talking, not me. So please let me know. And then also, I really, really want to see your guys' aviation photos. So if you're planning on going to Swartkops Air Force Base on Saturday, please share your photos with me. Please show me what you've been shooting. I really would absolutely love to see the type of images you guys have created. And also, if you need any guidance or crit, I'm very bad at giving crit. I never really give crit because we've all kind of got our own way of shooting. And unless there's something like really, really key, I'm not really going to give you crit. I'm not going to criticize your photo. I also wasn't there. I don't know what went into it. So Dion, this is going to be my first issue. I'm coming up from East London. No pressure. Dion, enjoy it. That's legit all I can say. Make sure you get movement in your images. Make sure you enjoy being there. Like I said, don't always look through the camera. Enjoy just being there. Enjoy the sounds. I don't know. Wait, does anybody know if Menno is flying on Saturday? Is Mustang Sally flying? I don't know. But enjoy the sound. Just enjoy it, and that will come out in your photos as well. Dion, if you need any other advice, please, if anybody needs an advice before Saturday, please just feel free to message me. I will happily give more advice if I can. Peter, when panning, is it best using a higher f-stop or a lower? Your f-stop is almost immediately going to go higher based on the fact that it's going to be compensating for a lower shutter speed. It's going to be compensating for the fact that lower shutter speed, which means that you've got a lot of light coming in. So higher f-stop, your f-stop is going to be sitting mostly on f9, probably between f9 and f12 type situation. That would be kind of normal, but your f-stop's immediately going to start going higher, especially if you're shooting midday. Nigel says Mustang Sally is scheduled. Perfect. Dion, enjoy the sound of Mustang Sally. That sound is like the best sound in the world. Oh, and the Huey. Okay, enjoy the sound of the Huey. I love the fact that everybody knows exactly what's flying. I haven't paid much attention because honestly, I've been like, my FOMO is going to kick in way too hard. Way too hard. So please, if you guys have any more questions, keep them coming. And also, please remember, let me try and get this thing to actually work properly. Please share your aviation photos with me. I love seeing everybody else's work. It is inspiring for me to also see how people think through their photo process. Martini, I'm guessing that is the link to what is flying on Saturday, probably. Pierre says, I do have a nice project coming through. Air Force Museum, the kids from Grey High School are going to start, restoring an old Impala. That is awesome. That is very, very cool. That is such a cool process. Help to document the process. Take photos of what you see, but try and make it as emotional as possible, basically. Capture what's happening in front of you, but tell a story with your images. That is the key with photography, is tell a story. Don't just take photos. Tell a story of what's happening. Capture emotions, capture passion. So that's pretty much all that I can help you with. But Pierre, if you want any more help, just message me. Dion, other Dion, 2 Dions, my goodness. Thanks so much for the guidance, much appreciated. I really hope it helped. Like I said, this is just my way of kind of shooting. Really pity there won't be a Mirage F1 in the skies. That is the best sound. Jared, we can hope. But never mind. All right, guys. So I am basically going to log out now because I have half an hour until my world goes into darkness for, I think, 4 hours again. But thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you so much for all the questions, for all the interaction. This really has been fantastic. Tonight has been the most interaction I've ever had on a live. So thank you so much. Frank says, well done, Megan, and enjoy the week. Thank you so much, Frank. Enjoy it as well. Johan, something else. Any suggestions for panning shots for a running cheetah? Okay, that's a bit tricky. Okay, so running cheetah. You would have a similar thought process in the sense that you would want more movement in front of the cheetah than you would want at the back. It is going to depend as well how fast the cheetah is running. So it's pretty much going to be a trial and error situation. I'm trying to organize with Cheetah DeVilt Sanctuary. They do a cheetah run on a Sunday morning, and I actually desperately want to get a whole bunch of photographers out there to basically do this, to basically practice panning shots of cheetah, because I have a few shots of panned wildlife, and they're not great. They're embarrassing because they don't just like run in a straight line. They don't just like a car that goes in a straight line or a plane that goes straight down the runway. They kind of move constantly. So Johan, I don't really have much experience with that. Just try your shutter speeds. Try to see what shows the most movement. Yeah, that's going to be tricky. Vincent, the joys of load shedding. Yes, we're basically used to this. We're basically used to our world being shut off. You kind of get into like a habit of like, okay, kettle's boiled, like you've got enough hot water for coffee, like everything's sorted. Nigel, thank you so much for joining. I'm really glad you find it interesting. Jared, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing your photos, Jared, especially with your new setup. Pierre, have a stunning evening. Thank you so much. And Johan, I will do some research and then I'll actually WhatsApp you and let you know if I found anything about panning cheetah. I think it's genuinely just trying different shutter speeds and seeing what actually works. So again, thank you guys so much for joining. Please, if you have any questions, just message me. I really have no issues helping. And remember, post your photos, share your photos. I want to see what images you guys are creating. If you're going to Saturday, have lots and lots of fun. Please don't get sunburned, please. And I will let you guys know when the next aviation workshop is. Thank you again for joining and have a fantastic evening.